Today, we will start our journey from the Kubuchi Desert in China, a place that people once didn't just call a desert, they called it the Sea of Death, because life here meant being slowly lost. Every year, about 500,000 acres of land were silently buried under sand. The fertile land
It would turn into a desert in front of us. The plants would dry up, and people would be forced to flee their homes. All around was the sand dunes and the scorching wind, and a silence that meant that life was losing the fight for survival. But the most terrifying thing was this desert. It wasn't stopping. It was spreading slowly. Every year, about 500,000 acres of land were disappearing under the sand. Entire villages, agricultural lands, roads, everything was slowly disappearing. And this process has a name: desertification. Simply put, where there was life, where life was slowly disappearing. Only deserts are created, and Kubuchi was one of the biggest examples of this. At one time, this desert was spreading at such a speed that it seemed impossible to stop it. But China did not stop. They tried again and again. They planted trees to stop this desert. They built a large sand control station. They have launched big projects and invested crores of rupees. But this ocean of sand could not be stopped. No matter how hard they tried, it seemed that they were slowly losing this battle. Deserts have one terrible characteristic. Once they start growing, it is very difficult to stop them. Right. Then a man came up with an idea that everyone laughed at first. His name was Wanbiao. He started a strange business. He spent all his savings and took out loans and started a crazy business. He brought more than 100 bulldozers and 300 workers. He worked for 18 hours a day. He continued. He started making small squares with dry bushes on the desert sand. And he started planting willow trees inside those squares. This tree is not an ordinary tree. Its roots can go deep into the ground, about 300 feet, to find water. That means it can live where no other tree can. Trees can create an opportunity, but the problem doesn't end there. The strong winds of the desert are so strong that these new trees have a hard time surviving. The wind blows away the sand and dries out the little moisture in the soil, so the trees die before they can survive. So Wang came up with a new strategy. Directly, and the humidity can be kept inside. This small idea slowly starts a big change. People were still laughing. This man is crazy. He's planting trees in the desert. But he didn't stop, not for a day or two. He kept planting for a few days. The same thing happened for years. Gradually, some trees survived, and some roots reached deep into the ground. The sand began to settle little by little. It seemed that the impossible was becoming possible little by little. But then another big problem came to the fore. To keep the trees alive, regular care was needed. The new branches were cut. You have to give it. Otherwise, the tree will not be strong. It will not grow. And it is almost impossible to do this work in this vast desert. If you try to do it with people, the cost will be sky high, and it will take endless time. So who will do this work? Who will manage this entire system in such a large place with so much difficulty? And right here, suddenly, imagination takes a new turn, which no one could ever imagine. The work that was almost impossible to do with humans began to be done by a small animal, rabbit. A special breed of rabbit was brought here, Rex rabbit. These rabbits are called white gold because of their The fur is so soft, so valuable, that a good quality skin can sell for up to $30, whereas it costs only $2 to raise a rabbit. That means a more than 15 times return from one animal. But this is not the real story. The real story is hidden in a small habit of theirs, Rex. Rabbits also love to eat the new and tender branches of the willow tree. And when these rabbits started eating the new branches of the tree, the main stem of the tree started to become thicker and stronger and more permanent. This means that the work that people had to do repeatedly, cutting the branches and strengthening the tree, these rabbits did it themselves. It was easy to do. It didn't end there. Another great contribution of these rabbits was their dung. It may sound strange, but their dung began to act as a very powerful natural fertilizer. Slowly, the dry and almost dead soil began to come back to life. There was another surprise. The rabbits ate grass, but the grass seeds could not be digested completely. As a result, the seeds returned to the ground through them. And after a few days, it was seen that grass had slowly started to grow where there was only sand before. A small bicycle was created. Both nature and animals worked together. The sand began to settle. The moisture in the soil began to hold. The wind could no longer blow the sand away as it had done before. And within a few years, the area that had once been a dead desert gradually began to turn green. But this did not end there. This change was it did not stop in the environment. It also spread to human life. Local people were encouraged to raise these rabbits. Every house started turning into a small farm. Rabbit hair started being sold. Raw materials started coming from trees, and people slowly started earning. Once upon a time, those who were fleeing the desert began to return again. This process continued for years and years, and at one point, a large part of the Kubuchi Desert was covered in greenery. The place that was once called the Sea of Death. Once, those who had fled this place. There's a twist. These panels don't just generate electricity. They also reduce wind speed by 50%. They also create shade under the panels. And under that shade, grass grows again. And that grass is eaten by rabbits, sheep, ducks, and other animals, creating a new ecosystem where technology and there's a twist. These panels don't just generate electricity. They also reduce wind speed by 50%. They also create shade under the panels. And under that shade, grass grows again. And that grass is eaten by rabbits, sheep, ducks, and other animals, creating a new ecosystem where technology and